Our top story, the fighting intensifies in the Holy Land as Israel formally declares war on Hamas. Tonight, we hear from St. Louisans affected, including a teacher forced to bunker down.
It's an atmosphere filled with terror.
Tonight, government sources confirm several U.S. citizens are among those killed in the deadly attacks on Israel. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Maxwell. Mike Bush has the night off. Israeli defense forces are now unleashing relentless air attacks on the Gaza Strip as they continue to battle groups of Hamas fighters holed up in towns across the country. Hundreds on both sides are dead. We're told other Americans may also be among the hundreds kidnapped and taken into Gaza by members of the Palestinian militant group during yesterday's surprise attacks. The Pentagon now says U.S. ships and aircraft are moving closer to the region.
The focus now has to be on making sure that Israel has what it needs to deal with this attack and to make sure that its citizens are safe and secure.
Biden administration's move last month to unfreeze $6 billion in Iranian oil revenues in exchange for 5 American prisoners. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says there's no evidence to Republican claims suggesting those assets helped Hamas fund the attack. There were rallies across the U.S. today, both in support of Israel and in support of the larger Palestinian cause. With emotions running high, security is being ramped up at synagogues and mosques nationwide. Here in St. Louis, both sides of the conflict are watching the developments closely. 5 on Your Side's Diamond Palmer has their reaction.
Well, Mark, Islamic and Jewish advocacy groups in St. Louis region are organizing aid efforts as they call on Congress and leaders in the Middle East to find a path to peace and stop the bloodshed.
Sunday, Israel officially declared war against the Palestinian military group Hamas. It comes after Hamas carried out surprise attacks in the Gaza Strip into southern Israel. Edward Ahmad Mitchell serves as the Council on American Islamic Relations National Deputy Director.
So the solution to this crisis is clear. In the occupation, a Palestinian state based on their original borders with East Jerusalem as their capital. That is what the Palestinian people have been asking for decades.
He says millions of Palestinians packed into the Gaza Strip have grown frustrated under Israeli rule.
So they're trapped with nowhere to go.
Israeli defense forces launched a counterattack striking military targets in the Strip in a bombing campaign.
So I'd encourage all Americans to call their member of Congress and say, look, I don't want my money going overseas to fund injustice. I want you to step in and say it's time for peace.
Brian Herstig is the president and CEO of the Jewish Federation of St. Louis. He says the attacks follow a painful history of Jewish people being kicked out of every country they've lived in.
There's an emotional connection that people have. And so we have many people from this community who have moved to Israel permanently, whose children are now serving in the military, who are being called up, who are fighting right now in this very war.
The Federation has worked with partners in Israel to continue bulletproofing schools, homes, and offices. Herstig calls the nature of the war unprecedented.
This is on a different scale. Never before have they breached Israeli borders, done hand-to-hand combat in the street with civilians.
The bloodshed quickly claimed hundreds of lives on both sides in densely populated territory.
It's too small of a country. Every single person has to help defend it.
Jewish federations of North America, including the one right here in St. Louis, say they're responding and working with victims to rebuild infrastructure and address trauma as the conflict continues.